afternoon, participants. Welcome back to the next session after our lunch break. I hope we're all energized, back in action after a quick bite. So we're now moving to the third session of the day, which is Digital Transformation of MSMEs. We're joined by two panelists, industry experts in their own way on IT, and that's the topic for now. Information technology has been an inevitable part of our evolution for a very long time. And we have embraced and adopted technology that has been meaningful and progressively impacted our lives over time. And we've been doing that, including the current webinar that we are sitting on. In 6 months ago, this would have been a day-long event somewhere at some five-star hotel where physically we would have all gathered. But the very fact that we've all been able to quickly adapt and move on to conducting an online day-long session like this is a reflection of the fact that the human race is made to adapt technologies, and we're all inbuilt and inherent in a way that whatever is meaningful, we pick that up quickly. IT is definitely one of those important aspects that's going to change the way we live, not just personally, but from a business standpoint. So today we're all, more efficient and more productive. So we have industry experts on the panel to guide the small businesses on how they could transform their businesses. I would like to introduce them to you one by one. Firstly, Ms. Sneha Hiranandani, a very well-known and respected name in IT. She has over 30 years of experience in information technology. She's currently the global CIO of Cipla and has been the Vice President IT at Mondelez International prior to this, Cadbury India and Asia prior to that. From implementing standalone IT applications in factories, depots, and head office to implementing ERP, SAP for country operations in Malaysia, Philippines, China, India, to championing the entire digitization journey of Cipla globally, she has done it all. So she is the right person to tell you what's good and what's not. The other person on the panel with us today is Ms. Heena Vazirani. She's the director with Ernst Young, taking care of Africa, India, and Middle East with over 17 years of experience in technology consulting. She has been consulting business of varying sizes, big and small, across sectors like manufacturing, which includes pharmaceuticals, consumer products, automobiles, among others. We definitely have a great mix and complementing, experience between the two ladies. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from this panel. Also, just to say that this is a very special panel, being an all-woman panel today. We're going to make a good difference, hopefully, to small businesses. Yeah, on that note, I'd like to welcome the two of you, Heena and Sneha.
Thank you, Shalini. So, Shalini, I would just like to start off with a small video. And once the video, wakens everybody, because usually the lunch break sessions after. So I thought I'll have a pep video first, and then I'll start the talking. So I'll just put on the video.
Perfect.
I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll just move on to the presentation now. Shalini, I hope I am audible.
Yes. Thank you very much, Heena, for a brilliant start. So all the floor is all yours.
Perfect. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm here to present the digitization world for you guys. And the way I have put in this presentation is to talk about what are the trends that people are using, that people are seeing during digitization, as well as how does it really apply to manufacturing. So during the course of this presentation, I'll talk I'll talk about where there are, use cases, where there are examples, where companies like you have adapted that, and they've seen a drastic change in the growth and the strategies that they are going through. So, first of all, let us just have a look at what is it that we see as a scale for digitization. Uh, by 2020, everyone knows what is IoT. We are seeing that there will be about $25 billion potential for industrial IoT by 2020 itself. And we are talking about 163 zettabytes of amount of data being collected because we are moving towards digitization by year 2025. When we say different technologies in blockchain as well, we are talking about 9.2 US billion dollars of spending by worldwide for IoT and blockchain technologies. So we are seeing that while there are so many options for adapting in digitization, the world is moving towards it. And it's not just India, it is not a particular industry, but we are seeing that change all around us. What are the threats that we see? So if a company is going towards the journey of digitization, what is it that we see as a challenge? What is it that we see as an opportunity? And while you see the screen, I'm talking about threats, I will always speak about the positive side of it. So whenever it if everything is automated, people will not be needed. We may just lose jobs. But what people are not thinking is that the quality of jobs that we are talking about, it will be much better worldwide. So which means that if today you are spending your time in mundane jobs and you're really getting bored of doing it over and over again, it is like you do the same thing over and over again.
Heena, I think you've gone on mute. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I think someone else put me on mute.
Okay.
So we are saying while there will be a change in the kind of jobs, you should not look at it that there is a job loss that has happened, but you should look at it that is a new opportunity to stand, think digital, think from a strategy point of view, and think towards innovation and how do you grow yourself. We also noticed that a lot of people worldwide now have to adapt skills to adopt new technologies. And if I take an example, in Indian schools, at least when I did my schooling in 90s, coding was not a mandated subject. And when I see school kids around me, everyone is pushed towards coding. There is a mandatory subject that has been embedded because even the school authorities believe, even so that's the new trend that is coming and we need to adopt to. When I say talk about all of these threats, one key thread is the amount of data that you gather. Now, as much as digital data that you gather, that also means there's a lot of cyber crime that may increase. So anything that is digital there is a big thread around cyber crime, but I also see this as an opportunity that Now, teenage kids come to me and talk, and they ask me, there's a lot happening in cyber. Do you think that I should make myself a cyber professional? Do you think that I should become a hacker and I'll have a good growth opportunity? So while there is a negative side to it, but we also see that that opens up a job opportunity in a particular subject, which is cyber. So all these threats that I'm talking about, we should always look at the positive side of it. And when I say opportunities, now consumer experience is something that we always want to look at. And there are so many opportunities that we see around. Just an example, an AI powered chatbot. So nowadays, whenever you call up maybe ICICI Bank or you call up any bank, most of the time you are acknowledged by a chatbot, because what they want is that the other side, there shouldn't be a dedicated 24 by 7 person sitting to answer generic questions, to answer things that are already documented. So what they've done is replace those kind of jobs and put a chatbot there. And I'm sure most of you would have already experienced, because that's the way things are working now. And it's not a bad experience to be with. Then there are other options and drones that are capturing and analyzing data. There are some oil industry boilers that have been developed to showcase trends. So there are multiple things that I see. In fact, I was reading about one of the Indian jewelry manufacturer. What they did was, and specifically in the age of COVID, when people want to buy, but they cannot go and check the jewelry in the showroom, what they did was they developed a AI-based experience for jewelry designs, which means, and I'm talking about an Indian jeweler, which means that sitting at home, you go to the website, you select the jewelry that you want to try out. They will ask you for a video option. They will make you wear that virtually. They will make you see how it looks like. So specifically because the times have changed, already changed. We always thought that the lockdown will happen only for 1 month, maybe 17 days to start with. And I think I have not gone out for over 90 days. And this is the new way of working. So we have to think how to make digital, how to have these opportunity convert into our jobs, into new skills, and how to make the customer experience much better. Now, if you think from a digital transformation perspective, it's not that today as a CIO or a chief digital officer or a CEO, I decide that I want complete digitization of my organization. So that's not an overnight journey. What it also means is that there will be an impact on technology, which is obvious. There will be an impact on people as well. There will be an impact on the business model and the business processes. There will be an impact on external as well. The example that I gave in terms of the jeweler, and it's a small time jeweler who had taken that option, the complete business model changed for him. But when he compares his options of delivering to his customers, they are much more than the larger showrooms who did not give that option online or virtual reality. So it's a complete change internal as well as external, where people are actually adapting to the change that we are bringing in on the table. Now, change in people, change in skill set also calls for change in talent. And when we are changing the complete way we are operating, maybe we can think of upgrading the skill sets that we have internally, or we can think of hiring new skill sets which know the latest technologies. What challenges you may potentially see? So if you decide that you want to go on a digital journey, what would you really see as a challenge? One, the first challenge that you will see is the people mindset. It is very difficult for organizations who are working in a certain manner continuously for a very long time, gaining profits, to suddenly change the way they are operating. And this particular challenge everybody would have seen during the COVID times. Now, the question is, should I adapt to the change and have my business running, or just sit back home, have my shop shut, have my business, not working at all, and not think towards it and wait for the lockdown to go. So I'm sure it has forced people to think on the innovative side and think how I can adopt to digital and make sure that my business is running. The other aspects will be maybe a stage of scale up because you do not have that infrastructure currently. So what are the various options for scale up? The change in the legacy IT systems that you're already using. Is there a need that you upgrade them? Is there a need that you replace them? So these are the digitalization. There may be a difficulty in integrating with partners and accelerators. And one of the daily examples that I can speak of, we wanted some develop bots for us. And we reached out to some local company to say that, look, our hands are full internally. Is there a way that we can partner with you so that we can develop more bots? And the answer we got was, look, we are also having hands full. And we really thought that it is a small scale company. They may not have work, but because of the way everybody is working, all of these small time vendors also have got job opportunities. While emerging technologies, trends are affecting the way your digital strategy is, how can you really succeed? So there are some three key points that I would want all of you to think about. One is create an ecosystem for the movement to transformation, because you as a leader, when you think of the complete transformation, it may be very difficult for the others who are working under you to accept that. So you need to realize that the complete ecosystem has to change once the employees and the stakeholders accept that idea and want to believe in that idea. So make sure that there is a complete movement for transformation that you are planning for. Make sure that you're building an agile digital model and ensuring that there are capabilities built in to make sure it is up and running. Now, a lot of times there will be instances where you adapt to a technology. It may not work the way you want. So you need to make a model that accepts certain failures, and then you go on and move on to a new technology. So making sure that you build and sustain an agile digital model is something that you need to take care of. Now, platforms and technology enablement, every efficiency of the application is dependent on the backdrop that you have. So you need to make sure that the underlying enterprise architecture is ready to then generate those kind of insight, because the digital data will be a lot to handle. And at the same time, you need to just make sure we are not just talking about IT in our office, we are also talking about operational technologies that are present in the manufacturing sector. So you just need not look at how IT is working, but also you look at how OT is working in your domain. So I already spoke of most of these aspects, including being collaborative. You need to make sure that internal teams are collaborative. Uh, Seniority is dedicated towards making strategic decisions and what will really work. But at the same time, the collaboration with the technical people. And I faced this issue in my early days as well. When you as a newbie enter into an organization who've been working for very long time and try to generate ideas, I used to get questions that, my dear, your age is my experience. So the number of years that I have been working, you cannot teach us. But what we have to understand is these newbies know what they're doing. These newbies can generate new ideas because they've learned and grown in that manner compared to what we used to be. We have to be collaborated. We have to be open to ideas and not take the age factor as something that can be an input to your experience or the way that operations are working. Believe me, a lot of people in my team who are half my age, they have generated a lot of unbelievable ideas that have been accepted by our EY clients. So disruption is something that you cannot move away from. There are different ways that digitization can be adopted, and there are four ways that I can talk about right now. One is how does a customer wants to experience. So a simple customer experience example that I gave was the jewelry sector. Another example is there were people who were trying to have, we face a general issue that I want to change my tire every 4 years. So I buy a car, I make sure that my tires are well maintained, they're up and running. So one of the companies, a tire company, what they thought of, how can I change the customer experience related to this, standard of changing 4 years, every 4 years, changing the tire, even if the wear and tear is not much. I still by default go by that, and I'm sure a lot of you must be using that model as well. So this tire manufacturing company, what they did was they started giving wear and tear by the number of miles that the tire goes, which means they have tires with sensors, and what the sensor does is is an indication that there is a wear and tear. It will give a notification to the company, and the experience of the customer is not to worry about the time or the number of miles or kilometers that they have gone, but just to rely on the automated messages that are coming to them to take decisions of when to change the tire. So that's a complete customer experience change and mindset change. Another example of or an idea for change is having a subscription-based model. Now, when I give an example of subscription-based model, uh, one of the boiler manufacturing companies. Now, I will start off with first an example of how boilers were being used over a period of time. Most of you are from the manufacturing industry, and you would have seen that there was a notice that came during the we heard was a boiler bursting into a manufacturing setup, because after the notification was revoked, the company did not know how to switch it on, and they just switched it on by clicking a button. And that was a normal process in their SOPs. And because of that, there was a mischap that was reported in that particular plant. Taking this as an opportunity in Industry 4.0, one of the boiler manufacturing companies decided that they will have sensors. They will have a collaboration platform which talks about subscriptions of whatever trends they are seeing across industries on the type of boilers and how do they really work, give a predictive analysis how to deal with such situations. So an opportunity after an incident happened is that particular company is now selling not just boilers but also subscriptions on a per year model to understand what are the analysis that have happened on different type of boilers. The next model is having a platform ecosystem. Now, I know I can take Geo's name openly here. So Reliance Geo, when it started, if you see, they developed different applications, and they used to just roll out different applications one by one uh, till the end consumer did not get used to it. And over a period of time, when the number of applications increased, number of customers increased, they started calling it as a Reliance Geo platform. So that's the new way of dealing with things, which means that in your company, if you already have 5 or 6 type of applications that you're using, rather than replacing it with an ERP, which is something that consolidation that everybody used to see, you can have a platform model, have them integrated together, and have a baseline of data to reside below. And that is called the platform ecosystem model. The last option which I spoke about, and we all are aware, is bots to human aid. And there are different ways that people are using bots. We already know about this case study. So, whenever you think of digitization in your company, you can look at these use cases and see what you really need to adopt to, and then accordingly decide your strategy. Another aspect that is key is how do I look at a top-down approach, or should I look at a bottom-up approach when I'm adopting to complete enablement of transformation? Now, it really depends on the kind of business that you're doing. If it is a digital customer, then a smart engine kind of transmission is something that will work and will be a top-down approach. If it is a model that is more remote asset related, it will be a bottom up approach. So it really depends on what kind of manufacturing or what kind of business you are in, that you have to decide on the kind of approach that you have to adapt. Now, dependent on the type of service or product that you want to deliver through digitization, there are different options, or I would say different challenges that you see on the screen. There will be a speed to impact on cost initiatives. Obviously, everywhere where we want to work something new, there will be a cost impact. There will be some revenue impacts. Maybe just in the initial years when you're adapting to new technologies or going through that new model, there will be an impact on the kind of revenues that you're generating. Innovation is which is completely unavoidable today. You have to innovate. You have to think different to adapt to new technologies. You will obviously attract top talent in various experiences that you need for this transformation journey. You need deep expertise in all the digital areas. So someone who doesn't have that experience may find it difficult to adapt to this journey. And risk of failure, I believe you have to accept that residual risk that you may fail, but you have to get up and start all over again. That may happen a couple of times, but that will give you an experience to accept the change that is happening globally. Digitization in different forms. I would say there are multiple options in a manufacturing setup. It could be an opportunity in research and development. There could be an opportunity in manufacturing and supply chain. It could be an opportunity in marketing and sales. I think when you start off as an enterprise, you need to identify those pockets where you want to start off with, and maybe are the low risk items to start and then adapt to technology. I already spoke about different options, so I will just skip this slide because it talks about what is it that you want to do. Do you want to have product as a platform? Do you want to have services as your business model? Do you want to have subscription as a business model? So we already spoke the different options that are available or the cases that are available in the new type of transformations that are happening. The slide, although it looks very colorful and a lot of data here, but in a simple language, what you see here is across your complete business model, where there is innovation, product development, supply chain, customer experience, business processes, regulatory and cyber. What are the various options for you to adapt to technology and digitization, not just to improve efficiency, but also to have new talents and new skill sets in your own industry. It will be driven through your complete enterprise reinvent, to create new model, to manage data, and you need to empower your employees to take decisions whenever you adapt to that journey. Your employees really have to support the complete journey. If you go for digitization as an option, you need to think what are the fast-paced items that you need to look at for a complete end-to-end framework. You would need investment in hardware and software. You would need the analytics capability. If you have an existing workforce, you need to see how do you reskill them. You need to adapt to the technology change that will happen, and you have to deploy different security solutions. And as I said earlier, because there's a lot of digital data that we're talking about, you need to understand what are the security solutions that are available in the market to ensure there is safety and security related to the cyber attacks that happen. What you see on the screen is a complete model that talks about in a manufacturing setup. You talk about all the connected equipment ecosystem. What all will it impact? And this is just a deep dive into a simplistic example. You will have users who are impacted as a stakeholder. You will have the dealers who are impacted as a stakeholder, software providers or the wireless carriers or the insurance companies who are working with you. The financing partners will have an impact. The fleet owners, we have to deal with them. They will have an impact. And the complete equipment manufacturing. So if you use a particular use case which is very specific to manufacturing, you would see that there are multiple people, stakeholders that will be impacted, and they will also have to go through the complete change. So it's not an experience that only the outside world will see, but internally your stakeholders will also have to see that change coming in your company. So, Shalini, I had only this much in my slides. Over to you, Sneha, if you want to add, or Shalini, you can open the forum for question and answers.
I think I would love to hear Ms. Sneha Hiranandani if she has an overall perspective to give to the MSMEs to begin with.
Hi, good afternoon, Shalini, and thanks, Heena, for a brilliant presentation, I think, as always. And good afternoon to all the viewers and audience on this webinar. So I think the presentation was very comprehensive, and through my personal experience of now being in the industry for over 32 years and going through various transformations, from starting my career in '89 to when digital meant big tapes and floppies, to today when we hear Heena talking about IoT and robotics. I think it's been a long journey, but some of the things have been pretty consistent through that journey. So whenever you are talking about digitization or talking about anything new, I think the challenges that come through it are almost the same, because the challenges all have to do with people. And it's a lot to do with behavior and acceptance and adoption. So whether you're really moving from the floppy days or the tape days to talking about moving your data now on cloud, and therefore there is nothing like backups anymore, you still have the same kind of nervousness when it comes to doing something new. And the nervousness today is positive excitement. So what is new? How do I look at it? And how is it going to change my life? So for me, even today, anything new that I try to explore, I am like a like a kid before a new exam or before a new subject that I'm picking up. It's just that your experience and your learnings allows you to deal with it in a lot better way. So for everybody on this webinar, if there is something new that you're doing for the first time, or for somebody who's been pretty experienced at doing it, I think you would have that nervousness that you have with every new deployment. But believe me, we've got to do this. There is no looking away. Digital is the way to go. However, what you call digital, what you size as digital, and what you have an appetite for is pretty, industry to industry, individual to individual, organization to organization. My request or my suggestion would be, you must think big. You've got to reimagine, and you've got to think completely holistic and futuristic. You may choose to do it in piecemeal depending on the appetite that you've got, but don't let your thinking become a constraint to what you want to do. So think big, think holistic, think long term. You may want to implement, you may want to deploy, you may want to really go case by case, piece by piece, but there is no looking back. And even for large organizations like ours, whether it was in my Mondelez days or in my Cipla days, believe me, the amount I would have personally tried to get people to adopt, change, take on new technologies, accept new technologies, how much we've done in the last 3 months through COVID would, really take over a lot of the efforts of the last 30 years as well. So to get people to really adopt, like Shalini said, come onto a webinar versus saying, no, everything is face to face. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. There were people who didn't want to do meetings, so I traveled to 3 offices every day. Go to Vikhroli in the morning, reach Parel in the afternoon, reach Bombay Central in the evening. And today I'm sitting out of my house doing, multitude of meetings, talking to so many stakeholders, and they've all accepted it. So I guess there is an acceptance, and like they say, no pain, no gain. So we must get onto this journey, and there's no better time than now. So Shalini, I really want to take it to you now to ask us any questions that you've got. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that perspective, because that's really, really helpful for small businesses to start thinking big. And like you said, it's important to think big, but you might take small steps. But thinking big absolutely is a well said one from you. And thanks a lot, Hina, for a very detailed presentation. A lot of information coming out, and we're already having people saying, "Can you share the presentation with us?" So I'm sure the interest level has really gone up now with the session. So we'll start taking up a couple of questions. I request all the participants, please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen that you see. Please start typing in your questions. Throw in whatever comes to your mind. At the panel, they will be able to take care of your questions, and we'll try and help you as much as we can. So I'll begin with the first question, which is between the top line and the bottom line, which is like taking care of sales versus taking care of cost efficiencies within the organizations. Where should a small business begin their transformation journey? What would you recommend?
So I'll take up that question, Sneha. Shalini, that's a very good question, and that is something that we've been asked about. And there was one slide also that I spoke on. It really depends on the nature of business that you have, that you should think of top line or bottom line. So just to give an example, if you are in a commodity business, I would recommend that you have a top line option. But if you are in a services business, then bottom line will be more important in terms of having efficiency. So a simplistic answer to this is you need to think top or bottom based on the nature of business that you're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. That's a good starter for people. So the second question over to you is to say, with a lot of data being taken online, with the whole process of digitization that you were referring to, how should a small business deal with data security? People have questions like, will my competition come to know about my customer database? Small things like that. So how would you recommend they deal with this data security?
So data security is something, like I said, with new age technology, there are new jobs. One for the kind of people who attack different companies, and second for the kind of people who protect. Now, when I say that if you are in a small size or a medium sized company and you do not have that kind of an infrastructure to protect yourself from the cyber threats, I believe there are a lot of multiple type of cloud models that are available to outsource, data, and it could be any SaaS model, it could be infrastructure model. And the reason I would rely on cloud service providers now is because there is a change in regulations, there is a change in the way people are dealing with data, and hence all of these service providers are well equipped to deal with the new regulations and the new threats that are upcoming. A lot of people would have heard about the new data privacy bill that has come in. People would have seen how IT Act, there are changes in the IT Act, Indian IT Act. And of course, if you've read about the global changes in regulations, there's GDPR that was spoken about in the last year. Because of this complete change in regulation, a complete change in the way things are being managed, most of the service providers, cloud service providers, are ready, and they are, waiting for these kind of companies to come to them to deal with data because they are well equipped. So I think an option to outsource is something that will be helpful to them.
Wonderful. That's a very, very good answer. I hope the participants are benefiting from this. We have a question here that's coming up from Ms. Jayashilan, saying both the presenters have emphasized on significance of IT at operational level. What would be the change that can be expected in direct selling, such as pharmaceutical selling?
So Heena, while you're trying to sell e-pharma to us, I think you should be able to really try and take that on, and then I can give you some perspective of the new things that we are doing in the pharma and the healthcare industry as well.
So in the pharma industry, in terms of digitization, what we have seen is requests that come in that how do I reduce my turnaround time in QC labs so that my scientists can think about strategically about innovation. That's one specific example that I can immediately think of. apart from that, there are different options in terms of having a smart factory. Now, when I say smart factory, it's a typical day at work when you enter into a factory and you go and pick up your equipments, then you log into your different machines. You set the parameters for the whatever pharma that you're about to generate or produce. What we also thought and what we are hearing now is, can all of this become digital? When I say digital, uh, during the COVID times, you would have noticed that there was a mandate not to have 100% workforce on field, or not to have everybody going to the factory or the plants. And people wanted to evaluate options that maybe I can sit at home. I enter the parameters in my PLCs, HPLCs, SCADAs. Can I generate data, or can I operate them from through digital options? And that's the view of smart factory. Believe me, while we were talking and trying to, tell people that this is the way things will operate going forward, uh, people have started adopting to that idea after the COVID crisis. And it is not just in the global work that I'm talking about, but also in India, because of the amount of workforce that has reduced at the plant sites. They want to adapt and see how my factory can operate digitally through options to work from home. Maybe Sneha, you can add on to that.
Yeah, and no, thanks, Heena. That's a lot of information, and but a lot of things have also changed in the way things would be done conventionally to where we are doing things now in the COVID period. So, for example, in the healthcare industry or in the pharma industry, I think all of us know that a lot of the way of dealing with doctors would be through our MRs and are still through our MRs. So the medical reps who actually go visit doctors, meet doctors, talk to doctors, and talk about the new products that companies are launching, or about the drugs that are now the drugs that can be used. I think what we've seen in the last 90 days, while Heena and me have been saying we've been working from home, a lot of our medical reps now actually are doing the e-detailing with doctors through Teams, which is which we would never have done earlier. So we've actually got MRs now doing e-detailing through technology, sharing their screen with doctors, and actually doing the entire thing that they would have gone and sat in a doctor's clinic now through screens. The camps that you ran, or the sessions that you ran, or the conferences, the large conferences that you would run with doctors, where doctors would come together and discuss, either a new therapy, or a new medical, or a new drug, is now all happening through webinars. So the number of webinars have really gone up multifold. So I think to really look at how a MR and a doctor did only 90 days back to what we're doing now, just proves that technology is the way to go. So, I mean, I think we need to look at it with a real new lens.
Wow, I think that's a complete perspective. The both of you could give us, to answer this question. Very, very pertinent question, and extremely useful answer, especially in the context of direct selling, where you really need to go onto the market. So that's brilliant. That's wonderful. One more question that has come up is, what should a business do when customers and vendors are not as tech savvy or mature to adopt whatever is, let's say, the vision of the businessman or whatever he wishes to do, but they are not equally that tech savvy? What should be their, way to go?
So Charlie, when I was taking the presentation, I mentioned that one of the examples that I went through during my experience when I used to go in the consulting environment, we deal with a lot of stakeholders, and when you go to those board members who've been there in the industry for so long, it is difficult for them to digest when we give a recommendation which is completely different. And I can totally understand that. But I would compare this with a trend. As a 90s kid, we only had landline at home, right? And over a period of time, you would have noticed the way technology came. Uh, we are not able to stay without our mobile phones. Uh, is it just the manufacturers who forced us to take it, or is it the customers as us who have adapted to that change because the trend completely is changing? So I remember staying at home and having that landline at home, but if I go and play outside, I would never carry a phone, right? And I couldn't imagine my life having a mobile phone. But the way things have changed, you as an internal stakeholder, your customers as well as vendors have to adapt to that change, and there is nothing that can change it. And like Sneha said, there was so much of a difference in the way we have started working now during COVID times. That change is inevitable. There's no option for the customers or the vendors to say no to that change. So over a period of time, that will also be overcome.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. I think, like you're saying, there is a lot of behavioral change that needs to be brought about, within the value chain with our stakeholders. So I think some amount of knowledge dissemination helps, and some amount of, exposure to practical application of, let's say, what someone else is doing and how that is benefiting them. And therefore, you as a vendor to me, you also adopt that, and we can together, something like that, possibly, because that is going to be an evolving journey for stakeholders in the value chain. Sneha,
No,
you're
and and Shalini, I also wanted to add on that, typically when organizations, and whether they're small, middle, or large size organizations, as they go through change and technology and evolve with technology, the customers and the vendors also get the benefit of it. So there's a lot of benefit that gets passed on to both the customers and vendors in their experience of dealing with those organizations that have now brought in technology. So I remember through my Cadbury days when many years back, about 20 years back, when we wanted to really get the information from our customers every day in terms of our secondary sales. So what are they selling and what can we get? So as an organization, we were willing to put in technology, invest in technology. But what was in it for the customers? What was in it for them to give the data every day back to a company to say, this is what I sold of your products yesterday. But the moment they were able to see that, the company is going through a journey and is bringing in technology, and with that, if they are able to share their data with us, the amount of information that goes back to them as well. So, in terms of if there is a price change, they can understand that immediately. It's online, all right. If there is any claim that they have got from the company, any damages that they need to claim, etc. Being on a technology platform and them coming onto that platform allows us to service them so much more faster, so much in such an easier way. So I think finally it is a win-win, because even as an organization, today if I brought in technology, if I have a portal where vendors can come and say, when do I get my next payment? What has happened to my material? Is the material quality cleared? When is my next PO coming? They are the ones who finally get the benefit, and every organization brings in that technology to make sure that there is a delight for their customers and vendors. So I'm sure there is a lot in it for them to gain as well as organizations go on this journey.
Totally agree. Thank you so much for that viewpoint. Thank you so much for that perspective. I'm sure it's a evolving journey. Slowly and slowly, people will all be able to come on board with this. So we have a question pertaining to the previous question, which is will digital platform replace the system of direct selling? Is that something like a replacement, or is it something that is temporary?
I can try it. I can try taking a shot at it, and then Heena can help. So will it replace? I'm not saying it's a radical change. I'm not saying tomorrow you'll stop going to a chemist and you'll only go onto Amazon and buy your drugs. That's not what I'm saying. But will it be a slow change? No, it will be much quicker than what we all thought it would be. We will all reach that place much faster than what we thought it would be. But it's like, net banking. All of us today can't live without net banking. But if you look at the senior citizens, you still see them in the bank standing over there saying, okay, is my fixed deposit receipt printed or not printed? Okay. But 90% of us, more than 90% would say, oh God, how can you even go to a bank? I mean, the net banking, I just want to do it. So it's not something like switching on and off. It's not like a light that you switch it on and switch it off. It is a change, but the acceleration of this change is going to be absolutely much faster than what we all thought it would ever be. So, I mean, yeah.
Heena, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Sneha covered it, and the other day I wanted some medication for my kid, and I don't think that we all specifically, and I keep repeating the COVID example, because that has got a change in me as well, and I'm sure a lot of families are going through that change. People who believe that I need to go somewhere, check how the fruit looks like, or check the medication how it looks like before I buy, that has completely changed in this times. And I would prefer to receive things at home, get it delivered at home, even including calling up Apollo or ordering it online through Apollo, including medication, including fruits, vegetables, groceries, everything comes, because that's the way of the new future. So I'm sure that even after COVID is settled, my way of working or my way of having commodities at home may not change now. I would save that much of time for myself, maybe.
All right. Great. Thank you, both of you. I think this question has been well answered for Jay Sheelan, and the query is resolved mentally, possibly for the participant as well. So we'll go to the next question that's up on the screen from Rangarao Shinde. This question is, which is the best digital technology for selling food products globally?
So, Shalini, I don't think there's a direct answer to this. There are multiple technology options. It really depends on the appetite and the capacity of a particular company to invest, that they would want to go for a digital platform. It can be in-house developed. It could be outsourced. It could be just buying it out from service providers, cloud service providers like Amazon. So it really depends on the appetite of a particular company to adapt to technology. So there is no single answer to that I would be able to give right now.
Okay, okay. So I think like Heena mentioned, Mr. Shinde, the answer to you is it depends on what kind of a business you are, and there's no one recommended solution. It'll definitely depend on the nature, size, and how much cost you can bear, and what kind of technology you can adapt to your own business environment, etc. So that'll have to be looked at more in detail.
And also, Shalini, I think we need to add on over here that, like Heena said, there's no direct answer, there's no one technology, but I would just like to assure people that there's a lot of mix and match. So you could bring in various technologies together, which are at various price points, from an appetite of the cost of the product itself to the cost of deployment and then adoption. But through my various years and experience that I've dealt with, I think there is something for everyone. So you will always find a technology and a mix of technologies, or a mix of ways of doing things, which can feed your appetite, your budget, and the amount you want to spend in technology. So you should not look away from it, but try and see what best suits you as an organization and go for it. I think that's the mindset that we all need to have.
Perfect, perfect. Totally agree. Thank you very much for that perspective. So next question that's come up to us is, how far is this technology is affordable for small scale, businesses like us, especially pharma?
So I think the answer to this is, again, the various options that are available in terms of outsourcing. And there are a lot of technology outsourcing parties who are giving different type of affordable options for a small scale sector as well. So even if you are small scale, or whether you are a medium size company, right now the options outside are enormous, and they can be customized, they can be tweaked the way you want, and dependent on the kind of appetite that you have, you can choose that option. Sneha, you want to add in with your experience?
No, I think, again, like this, there is no direct or one answer that can really respond to it, but you're right. I mean, we'll have to really look at what is the use case, what is the requirement, and then try and, maybe also tailor make a solution for some of the requirements. And I really, really, really believe in the concept of co-creating. So it's not necessarily going and buying off the shelf. It's about, organizations having a use case, consultants, partners, and partners of various firms of various sizes, whether they are, small startups or one of the big four like you guys. I think we could always co-create solutions. People are offering that, come and work in our labs, come with us, come with use cases, and we can really get into your organization together. So there is a lot of opportunities that are available.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for this. So the next question, I think, which flows also logically, is to say, when selecting vendors who give proposals for, let's say, website development or automating supply chain, what should we look for, like criteria or something to decide, who to go with and, what is best for us as a business?
I think I could try with that because Heena is the one who keeps going to sell her to sell her services, and we are the ones who are making those choices. But there are various parameters that you could really use as a selection criteria in terms of which partner you want to really go with. The easiest one is to say, the person has done it all. There's the right experience, the right, this has already been done. There are reference points. There are people you can go and talk to and say, okay, this is really a good person to go with. But through my experience, I really feel that even if the vendor or the partner is the best vendor and has got the best references in the market as well, may not necessarily work for you. And maybe there's a vendor where the references or what you're hearing says that, this vendor is not really good, may be a super success for you, because a lot depends on how clear you are as a customer on what you want, how well you can define your requirements, how much of your time you're willing to put into that project, and how much are you willing to walk along with that partner or vendor to make sure you're successful for your organization. So obviously the skill set, the expertise, the price point, the experience are all parameters that you must look at. But your own appetite on how much you're willing to invest in this, how much you're willing to put in it, how much of your people are willing to get onto this project has a very, very large role to play. So being successful or not being successful cannot be blamed at the partner at all. You may have the best partner and still not be successful on your project. You may have a mediocre partner and really surpass everything because you've gone and made that extra effort. So I think it's absolutely how well you can work together and how you collaborate with your partners. I think that's important.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that insight. It's really, really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of MSMEs would have picked up this as to how to make the choice. Right now, they're talking to multiple vendors. People come and pitch. And I think this is very, very useful for people to go ahead and take their decisions on the ground. I think with that, we have come pretty much to the close of the session with regards to the question and answers. I really believe that this has been extremely insightful, inputs given from Ms. Heena and Ms. Sneha over here today. What you've shared with us is something that comes only out of experience of being there and doing that, and not theoretical. And therefore, I really hope that the participants today have taken enough notes and they're going to truly benefit as to what to do next, on ground. So this has been an extremely, enriching session. And I truly thank both of you for sparing your precious time to come out and, make the push to MSMEs to say, you have to go, you really have to go. Take your steps small, but you really need to act now. So thank you very much for the message and all the valuable inputs from you today.
Thank you. Thanks, Shalini. Thanks, Heena. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sneha.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks a lot. So participants, with this, we come to the end of our third session for today. Please stay tuned because in a couple of minutes, we're going to begin the next session with our next speaker, Mr. Nitin Podar, on striking back post-COVID-19. Please stay tuned and hold on.
Marketing and especially social media. So typically when we talk of social media, we think of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., WhatsApp, etc. But we have always been actually looking at basically interacting, using these tools to interact with them, especially with our customers and taking customer feedback.